80s for Brady, or as I call it, Four Karens and the Power of Failing Upwards. All right, so
Tell us how you really feel, Michael.
am I wrong? Am I wrong?
At least they were nice,
To each
As
other,
yes,
kind
I
of entitled to everyone else.
as somebody who has been working through the whole pandemic and has encountered Karens 40 hours a week for the past few years.
It was just a joke. They're not the stereotypical Karens. You don't.
No, they seemed to be rather flexible and roll with punches more than Karens do. Karens.
Would it make you feel better if I called them boomers?
Yes.
Okay, fine. The four boomers and the power of failing upwards.
All right. That sounds more accurate to me.
All right. Oh, God damn it.
Where'd you go?
It's an oversensitive USB port. There we go. God. Technical issues, folks.
It's not me this time.
No, this is me. There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is 80s for Brady, this is bad, but I do recognize who the key demographic for this movie clearly is. I'm willing to give it a little leeway for that reason.
Honestly, I wasn't going to see this movie this soon. It was rather lower priority for me. There are still other movies that I want to see more than I wanted to see this one. I still need to see Megan, for example. But I was mildly pleasantly surprised at
Really? Okay.
At how touching the basic message of this film was about how life embracing it was, and going after your whatever your dream is. In this case, a recovering cancer patient played by Lily Tomlin, I believe, wants to go to the Super Bowl in 2017. Like, okay, sure, why not? And some parts were rather on the nose, and some guest star parts were a little fun. I enjoyed seeing Guy Fieri because I'm a fan of Triple D. So there were things that I liked about this movie. It was more touching than I expected.
Okay. You already liked the movie way more than I did. I'm not
saying I'm going to see it again, or that I would see it under other circumstances, or that I intend to own it. I was surprised that it wasn't just a brainless sports movie.
This is a movie where, like, even though I didn't like it, and I can tell, like, I'm not the target audience for this movie, very clearly.
Me neither.
Like, this is very clearly meant for. This kind of fits into that weird niche that existed a while in the early noughties, where it's just old male actors doing something party-esque, and it's about them being old and showing the Onions how it's done. Except now
it's swapped here.
Yeah, exactly. Except now it's women focused, which is fine. Now you like those movies exist for a reason. They like I was in a theater full of old people. They seem to like it. Cool. All right, not gonna fault them for that. That being said, it does fall into some trappings within that kind of weird comedy subgenre that do annoy me. And there was one part, particularly towards like the third act, there was one point in particular where it went from like, okay, I'm not enjoying this. I don't think it's very funny. It does feel like for very talented actresses just cashing in a paycheck.
Although they did have good on-screen chemistry with one another, and
Sure, but
I
this
think
was
the four of them are friends in real life.
sure, but this was produced by Tom Brady, like right off the bat. Like this is a pretty shameless, like
Very much so.
NFL promotion. Like regardless of how you feel about the main actors or the chemistry involved, this is shameless advertising.
It
Which
is,
well,
and
let me finish my thought before you get into that.
sorry.
So, but one part in particular where that's sort of like, okay, this went from annoying, but I can live with it to this is really fucking stupid. And we'll get into that when we get more into spoilers, but there was it's just a point where all my suspension disbelief kind of went out the window. It's like, okay, no, no, we're not doing this. This is too silly. This is too much. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
There
Uh,
were a few points throughout that I feel can match that description that I just kind of like, okay, this is what is happening on screen. Sure, why not? Uh, I, I just want to throw this out there. I'm not a sports person. I am not a Tom Brady fan. I'm really glad that he's not in the Super Bowl this year, because I'm kind of sick of hearing about him being in the Super Bowl.
mm.
Uh, so yes, this is kind of a shameless plug for to cement him and his legacy.
Yeah, like this is like when Tom Brady plays an active role in a lot of the scenes that don't even involve football. Uh, it again, it's pretty shameless, like self promotion and worship of Tom Brady, produced by Tom Brady.
Yes.
It's kind of like if I made a movie about women that worshipped me.
Okay, solid points.
And it's like, oh my god, Michael is so amazing at his YouTube content. Oh, I worship him so much. He helped me get through the darkest time in my life with my three gal pals. There's no way to play that. That doesn't just sound ridiculous in the offset. And okay, I'm gonna grant it some leeway because that's the kind of subgenre this is in. Um, but it does kind of annoy me that this is a fault with the genre, not just this movie, because all the ones with the old male actors did the same shit too, and it bothered me
Yes.
then. Which is they can kind of do no wrong, like everything just kind of works out. That's what I mean by failing upwards.
Oh,
Uh,
I see.
which more like everything just works out. They happen to network with the exact right people at the exact right time. Everyone is amazed by them. Everyone is like they befriend celebrities and all these big names at the drop of a hat. They recognize all of them. They get them where they want to go. Everyone wants to fuck them. You know, it's it
A
gets
lot
it,
of lucky coincidences.
uh contrivances. Let's call it what it is.
Yes.
In the part that like there's even a part where they have to convince the security guard they're dancers so their celebrity friend can get them into the Super Bowl because it turns out spoiler. I don't care if you see this movie or not. So,
You're not really missing much if you don't, and if you do, you've been warned. There.
yeah, there you go. But it turns out like the whole point of this was the main girl, I forget her name.
Llewellyn.
Thank you. Um, wants to go to the Super Bowl because she's a big Tom Brady fan to the point where she hallucinates him talking to her through the TV.
Little
Uh,
pep talks and affirmations.
sure. But it last ditch effort to go there because she's afraid her cancer has come back. She buys Super Bowl tickets, but it turns out they're fake. But oh, just so happens one of them was playing poker with Gugu, I think his name is,
Mm-hmm.
who just happens to just really like her, and she's like, "You can come with me. You can be." Then it's Kira's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Only dancers can get in. Can you guys like?" I don't see badges, so Gugu's like, "Oh, they're my dancers. Let's show you how it's done." And if they went looked at the security guard after they did their dance and just went like, "All right, I appreciate the effort. Come on in. Just like fuck it, whatever. I don't get paid enough to deal with this. Go ahead in." I would have accepted that, but they went
Yes.
like, "Wow, that was amazing dancing."
That
And just
that part was really contrived. That part kind of took me out. It's like, I don't believe that person in that position in that moment would have that reaction.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that, and it happens a few times. They're like, okay, I get suspension of disbelief. I get what kind of movie this is. I get who this is for. That being said, that's still dumb.
Yes.
And like, there's another scene early on when they go to, like, the NFL experience, and one of them is like starts like doing like football toss competition, and with this next to this big jock who thinks he's hot shit, and he says like, well, I bet she could throw more balls than you, and if she wins, you have to give her your jersey, and he's like, sure, you're on. And then she just keeps making underhand tosses at the nearest net while he just keeps missing at the longest yard, and I was like, dude, like, just do what she's fucking doing
Mm-hmm.
instead of whatever the fuck you're doing. Shit like that bugged me. Just because it's, and again, this is a fault with the subgenre this movie is in, where it's more like it makes other characters look really dumb or really pandering to make the older people look more competent.
Or by coincidence or contrivance, everybody else who are not the four main characters are just very unlucky.
Yeah, or just very whatever the plot needs them to be in a way that's just kind of obnoxious. But the part, like all that stuff, even though I wasn't liking, I wasn't kind of boring. I was kind of waiting for the movie to end. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not the target audience. I'm gonna let this stuff go. The part where I was like, no, I'm done. Like, this is it. Like, this is as far as I'm taking this. Was towards the end of the movie when they're actually in the Super Bowl, and because they just happened to run into two Super Bowl winning champion Dan. I don't know what his last name is. I don't know sports ball.
Callahan or something like
Something.
that.
He's a big sports person. So it's like, whoa, who wants to fuck one of the
Jane
girls?
Fonda's character.
Because apparently she wrote like erotic fan fiction, and I guess it's very popular because of course it is.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Anyway. So they don't only get in the Super Bowl, they get like the fancy box with like ultra rich people hanging out in.
Yeah, that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, with a fuck ton of money. But meanwhile, but oh no, like this, despite the overwhelming luck and privilege this woman has had up to this point to make it this far, just sheer, I don't want to say entitlement because that's a bit mean. But just very
Audacity.
much. Was that
Audacity?
Sure, let's go with audacity. Audacity to be in this incredibly lucky position that people would kill to be in. Like, this is not good enough because the Patriots are losing, and that can't be what the last Super Bowl is. So she walks her ass over to like the coordinator's booth and gives a dramatic speech over the headphones to Tom Brady himself, who is watching her with this ultra serious expression, like, yes, random woman, I don't know. I hear you.
I was kind of surprised that he wasn't more freaked out by it.
Like, everyone is just way too accepting. Like, that's where I could no longer maintain my suspension of disbelief. Because I was like, not only do they just break in there and just start like giving commands to people, no security. Like,
no, and any security guard character that is shown on screen looks like a nincompoop.
Yeah, it's more like the Super Bowl, the biggest football event, like arguably sports event in America every year, has one security guard.
Apparently, just one. They can pay millions of dollars for the halftime show, but they can't pay for more than one security guard.
Apparently not. So not only do they break into this box and start telling the people who professionally make sports plays, they accept the plays they're suggested, and it's like, well, tell me more about what you think our sports ball game should be played, while she's giving this dramatic speech. And because she gives this dramatic speech, Tom Brady just lights a fire under him. He's ready to go. He's like, let's fucking do this. And then everyone's like, somebody must have talked to Tom Brady because he's doing amazing right now. Whoa, where did this come from? Tom Brady's so good. And it feels like at that point you're just jerking him off. And
Tom Brady worship. Worship.
And it's just that's where it lost me completely. I was like, this has just gone from okay, four very talented actresses having fun on what is definitely a cheap movie and a cheap pay and like an easy paycheck. Sure, I understand the appeal. Uh,
Yes.
but that was definitely where it jumped too far into just shameless like hero worship and just implausibility and an unwillingness to have any consequences for its main characters. Um, and that's just stuff that bothers me. Like I said, it didn't bother the people in my audience. They had a good time with it, and I'm not gonna fault anyone for enjoying that kind of stuff. But just like, God, it annoys me. It annoys me very deeply.
It clearly annoyed you more than it did me. I just kind of thought, well, that's not really believable, but that's the kind of movie this is. It
Yeah,
it's cheap. It's cheesy. I think of movies of this genre. I and I'm not saying this because I don't want to support talented actresses. I love Sally Field. Uh, uh, but of movies of this genre, I'd rather watch The Bucket List again than watch this.
honestly, yeah, The Bucket List is a better movie. Uh,
Yes.
but like that's also kind of the genre it's in. Where like you can see pretty much where this movie, like how this movie was pitched, how it was greenlit, and what it's trying to do. It's not like there's nothing very subtle or like this. This is very clearly a cash grab. Like it
Yes.
very clearly is, and which
And a few weeks before this year's Super Bowl, that Tom Brady is not in, but he's
well,
in theaters.
maybe he was very enthusiastic about it when they originally proved this movie because again he produced it, which is like when I saw that credit in the intro, I was like, oh, okay, well that
Mhm.
makes sense. And oh, I also forgot to mention the part where the football team is so goddamn grateful to these old ladies for just inspiring this miraculous win. That they bring him to the locker rooms afterwards so they could thank her personally. It's like, well, I like your jersey. I want your jersey, says Tom Brady to the main character. I don't know. It just got obnoxious for me, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
At that point, it was almost over. So,
It was almost over, but I did not stay for the after credits. I ran the fucking theater.
I didn't stay for the after credits either. Was there supposed to be something after the credits?
I mean, it was like a post credit scene that played like very shortly after the credits started rolling. Um,
Um, I may have caught that. I was just curious to see if Llewellyn's cancer came back. And spoiler alert, it did not. They they watched the Super Bowl on their television together in 2020, which it fast forwards to. Uh, uh, Everything's fine, happily ever after, blah blah blah.
sure, yeah. Yeah, not a fan. I'm going with here. Definitely not the worst movie I've seen. I'd say Plane is worse, and that's another movie that came out last month, but still pretty bad.
Well, I guess we're getting more January movies in February.
It seems to be the pattern right now. Um, but at least not movies to talk about for the list this year. I don't know. It is what it is. I understand who these movies are for, and if you're in that demographic and you enjoy this movie, say la vie, good for you. Like I'm not gonna fault anyone for like liking this movie. Like my mom probably would have liked this movie. Um, so like I get it. It's just not for me. Um,
I'm I'm not a vested sports person, so it's not my genre
well,
either. I'm glad to see older actresses get work, but I think they can look for stronger scripts than this.
yeah, like I said, this definitely felt like a cash grab.
Hmm.
Which hey, you know what? yeah, it's a tough business. You got to get what sometimes you get. So like, not faulting anyone for it, but man, was this annoying. Uh, yeah, that's all I really have to say about this. Do you have any other lasting thoughts or impressions you want to go over?
Not particularly. I appreciated the life embracing message. I liked the chemistry between the older actresses. I didn't like the Tom Brady worship, and the unbelievable reactions from bit characters.
Yeah, it seemed to everyone not just worship Tom Brady, but also had to worship the main characters. And if they didn't, there was something wrong with them. That's kind of a
Yes,
general consensus there. And that kind of storytelling just gets boring.
yes,
Um,
because there are no stakes, there are no consequences, nothing can go wrong. There's no tension.
they just fail upwards because they happen to just. I guess if this movie shows anything, it's the power of networking. Uh, but
Yeah, the power of determination and networking and using the resources you have available.
even then, it's mostly just pure dumb luck.
Yes.
But anyway, like I said, this is obviously a pretty cynical cash grab. Um, but it might be some people's cup of tea. So take it for what it's worth. Um, I think it's all we have for this. We still got to watch Knock at the Cabin. So I got to talk to Grant about that. We've seen Infinity Pool. We haven't reviewed it yet, so that's on my list. And of course, we still got the best and worst stuff from last year. So we'll get to that eventually. In the meantime, I think it's all we have. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later.